Hello and welcome to this first presentation in a series of 10. This is top 10 tips for gaining higher marks in university assignments. So I'm Dr. Nick Jensen and I'll be taking you through the top 10 mistakes that I have seen made by undergraduate students throughout my 15+ years of teaching. This series is a part of my new YouTube channel for my company, NJAcademic. If you are new to this channel, please give this presentation a like and don't forget to subscribe to this channel so I can continue to create more content designed to help you excel as you navigate the choppy waters of your university experience. I've taught students from all over the world in the adult, further and higher education sectors, recently graduating in December of 2024 from Newcastle University with a PhD in Media and Cultural Studies. My research investigated the role of the unconscious in young women's experiences of the contemporary televisual fictions of Pretty Little Liars and Riverdale. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, as I'll leave a link in the description below the video. It is always an honor for me to help students. So whatever stage of the journey you are at, whether you are a school leaver or a college leader who is transitioning to university, or if you are a current undergraduate or postgraduate student on either a taught program or a research program, my business offers bespoke solutions at competitive prices. So please contact me at my email address in the description below so we can discuss your individual needs. Having taught in the higher education sector in the United States of America, I've also supported many international students throughout my career. So if you need assistance with proofreading, academic writing, critical thinking, structuring your work, developing an argument or a thesis, or using artificial intelligence AI tools such as ChatGPT ethically and responsibly, please get in touch, as I would love to hear from you. So to start off with, these presentations will have a series of aims and objectives. So the aim of this presentation is for us to be able to understand what we mean by overgeneralization and opinion, in this case, personal opinion. And the objective would be to discuss ways of avoiding this error by thinking about the language that we use. So in order to do this, I'd like us to first of all think about what do we mean by overgeneralization, or in other words, what exactly is overgeneralization? So in a nutshell, overgeneralization means an all-encompassing statement or series of statements, or to put it another way, a broad sweeping statement or broad sweeping statements. So I can explain this by talking about a diametric opposition where the poles are so far apart from one to the other, and these statements can easily be identified by the type of language that is used. So these broad statements that are either at one side of the pole or another, as in all anti-vaxxers are misinformed, or all anti-vaxxers are informed, it's either one or the other. So there is no black and white. There are no shades of grey, there's no nuance. It's either this is the way it is, or this is the way it is. So in returning to the type of language, for you to be able to easily identify the type of language used within overgeneralization, we need to think about words such as always, never, all of them, none of them, everybody, nobody, all of the time, none of the time. So all of these different types of words and phrases, none of these are useful in asserting your position in an argument. There's not enough complexity, in other words. So these are very black and white, very basic, as I mentioned before, broad sweeping statements. You wouldn't convince me in an argument that you are correct, or you wouldn't make me, as an old lecturer of mine used to say, you wouldn't make me buy what you're selling if you used language like this. So this overgeneralization, or the actual phenomena of overgeneralization, falls into what's called a cognitive distortion. And this cognitive distortion, this overgeneralizing, can lead to claims such as those made by anti-vaxxers. So the anti-vaxxer movement often spreads disinformation, and their favorite communication channels are online. And we all know that information online, it isn't peer-reviewed, it doesn't come from a reputable source. Anybody can say whatever they want to. So it's a breeding ground for misinformation, is anything online. Another example is that all people with tattoos are untrustworthy or violent. That is another very broad sweeping overgeneralization. And you might know some people, I certainly know some people who are covered in tattoos, and they are the nicest people that you would ever meet. These ideological kind of belief systems, these ideologies do come from media, and this is where people pick up bad habits and stereotyping. So my advice would be that if your thoughts lack evidence, or in other words, they are not supported by evidence, then chances are you are overgeneralizing, meaning this then becomes your own flawed personal opinion. So how exactly do we avoid overgeneralization? Well, there's a number of ways that we can do this. So first of all, you need to ensure that you support any statement you make with evidence, unless you know that what you are saying is common knowledge. Now, common knowledge can get really fuzzy. So an example of common knowledge, something that many people all over the world would consider to be true, is that when ripened, bananas are yellow. So you wouldn't need to reference or cite anything in support of that claim. But if you say something like, anti-vaxxers often say, the COVID-19 vaccine was detrimental to people's healths, and they were making these claims based upon very small samples of a few people, which are not indicative of the broader population. I would also say to be mindful of your word usage, as we discussed on some of the previous slides. And instead of using the type of language like never, always, all, use something called hedging language. So an example of hedging language would be something such as one can potentially conclude, or several studies suggest that anti-vaxxers do not use evidence to form their opinions, or people with tattoos are dangerous. So you can see these are examples of in-text citations. So I'll be talking more about this in the next video, in video number 2, on in-text citations, referencing and cross-referencing. But for now, if you were doing an in-text citation, you will be able to see here that the in-text citations appear in alphabetical order. So you've got Berman, followed by Cartwright, followed by Goldberg, followed by Panorama, followed by Ressenhoft, and finally Whitehead. Now, you'll also notice there's a phrase here that says ETAL or et al. So this is Latin, meaning and after. So basically what you do with an in-text citation is you only reference the first author of the paper if it is 3 or more authors. Then further information appears later, as I will give you examples of and show you where these sources come from. So moving on. Okay, so what you'll see here is a list of references. So you'll see that they're first of all in alphabetical order: Berman, Cartwright, Goldberg, Ressenhoft, vaccines, and Whitehead. So the first one by Berman, Anti-Vaxxers, How to Challenge a Misinformed Movement, and the following by Cartwright, A History of Vaccines and Anti-Vaxxers, Myth versus Reality. This is an example of how you would reference books. I'll go more into this in the next video on in-text citations, cross-referencing, and referencing. But for now, this is an example of how you reference a book using the Harvard referencing system. Now, your country may use a different system of referencing. Your university may use a different system of referencing. The school you're in within the university, or the department that you're a part of, they've all got different referencing styles. If you're a doctoral research student, and if, like me, you're working on journal articles for publication, each journal article that you send your work to will have a different referencing style. And there are many different types, such as APA for the American Psychological Association, MLA for Modern Languages Association, there's Chicago, there's Turabian, there's all sorts. So, you know, I can work with whatever referencing system you are using, provided that you have access to that source material. So going back to the books, you've got the 2 books there. Then the next 2, you've got a couple of journal articles. So Goldberg, How Should Psychiatry Respond to COVID-19 Anti-Vax Attitudes? And you've got Ressenhoft is a different journal article from the Journal of American College Health on Tattoos Can Harm Perceptions, a Study and Suggestions. You'll also see Vaccines, the Disinformation War from BBC One's Panorama, which was published for the first time on February the 15th, 2021. And then we end with the Whitehead article on a systematic review of communication, interventions for countering vaccine misinformation. So you'll see that, at least in terms of Harvard referencing, This is how to correctly reference books, journal articles, and the disinformation war example from Panorama is an example of a documentary. It is perfectly above board to reference popular culture such as this. You can even reference television shows or Hollywood films in order to provide, some form of evidence. I think also you are able to develop a critical voice and use overgeneralized examples in order to be critical and point out the flaws in the arguments and the reasoning of those arguments. So just to end now then, I'd like to say that should you have any suggestions related to future content that you would like to see, or if you're experiencing any current problems that need solving, then please comment below, as this will inform any future content that I create. So until next time, keep being curious and enjoy your studies. I'm Dr. Nick Jensen. Thanks for listening.